Get over there. Sorry, the book I'm reading almost fell over. Anyway, hello, and welcome back to another Ultimate Fighter episode review. This for Season 28, Episode 4, A Win is a Win. And, I apologise for the glum lighting, it's just that the weather outside is terrible. It's cold and windy and rainy and cloudy as all hell. And despite having my light on, like my bedroom light on, it's still quite dark. But I'm going to review this episode anyway because it was a good one. So, we start basically with the home videos, I guess you could say. We'll go through that first because that's usually what I go through first with these. So for this fight, like when it happened, it was Marciea Allen against Julija Stoliarenko, and Marciea Allen, being from America and Julia from Lithuania. Marciea, we find out, is gay. She has a girlfriend. She lives with a girlfriend named Brittany. She also has a younger sister and two daughters. Well, no, sorry, Marciea doesn't have the daughters. Her sister has the daughters, so she has two nieces. Technically three, because one of them's only a week old, and they're also adorable, to be honest. And their mom, like by their mom I mean Marciea and her sister's mom, is one of those classic black ladies who would throw sass at you without a second thought, and I was like, yeah, I like her. This is something Marciea points out. When she came out to her parents, they were completely cool with it. It was like they'd known the whole time. But when she got to college, they weren't as accepting. And this is something that Marciea would go on to say about in the house as well, with some of her fellow team members. And obviously, things have changed then, because that was like early 2000s, like 2000, 2001. Nowadays, it's not as acceptable to call out gay people. So you shouldn't do it, basically. So yeah, well done Marciea for overcoming that. And then we move on to Julia's home video. Oh, sorry, I forgot about Marciea as well. I forgot a little bit about her. We do go with the fact that she used to fight in Invicta. And she considers herself an Invicta OG, even though she only had 2 fights there. I think she was one of the first fighters for the company then, if that's the case. I don't know. But yeah, really, really good to have someone like that with that much experience. And then we moved on to Julija, who is from Lithuania. Was born to a Russian mother and a father who is Lithuanian, but he was exiled from Serbian parents. So, yeah, once again, quite an interesting background for a fighter to have. And Julija, we find out, sort of lives alone. She lives with her mother. They split when she was 14, and she lives with her mom, I think. And they went out, and Julija actually... They went out to a really nice forest. Apparently, Lithuania has some really amazing-looking forests. So if I ever wind up going on a trip there, I'm going to check them out. It's just really, really nice greenery. And she, there was a point where she even picked up like some leaves with berries and actually ate the berries from the twigs and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's just really cool. And then we find out that she's a trainer at a gym. She trains at a Roger Gracie gym, I believe. And like with the name Gracie attached, you're gonna go on to do great things in the UFC. So that was kind of cool. That's pretty much it for the home video segment. I'm going to move on to a training segment, because there was actually a lot to talk about with training segments. Then I'll move on to the house segments, I'll move on to the fight. So, training. Zajara, we find out, like, she's probably the better striker, and she does have a decent ground game, but because all of Julia's wins up to that point had come by way of armbar submission, they trained, like, over 300 drills. This is something they said after the fight was over as well. They trained over 300 drills with Marciea to get out of the armbar. And watching them perform them, it was actually really, really good. And obviously, Marciea trained in a normal way as well, with good striking. She's the taller fighter, she's got more range, so obviously she'd use the striking a bit more. And use her kicks especially. That's the idea, anyway. And with Julija, they basically made her a better... they basically trained her well with the things that she was really, really good at, helped her with a bit of striking. But primarily with her wrestling, because that's where she shines. She's best when she's taking someone down and she's on the ground with them. However, we do then come to another Team Whittaker member in Leah Letson. Now, I brought up in the last episode review that Leah, being the only American-speaking fighter on Team Whittaker, that does put her at a bit of a disposition. And also being on Team Whittaker, not only is there a language barrier, but there's a training barrier. Leah doesn't feel like Team Whittaker takes their training seriously. She feels like they have way too much fun with it. And there was a moment where they were like all standing in a circle and had this one ball. They had like this yellow tennis ball, I think it was. And they were throwing it around. They had to throw it with one hand and catch it with one hand. If they missed it, or they didn't follow the rules, they would have to do a press up or something, or a sprawl. And it was a fun looking training session, I'll admit, but it wasn't the kind of training session that Leia wanted. And there's a moment later on, that's the training segment, by the way, covered, so we move on from that to the next part, which is the house segment. And Leia comments on that, saying that she's more used to serious training, and because she's got such a major language barrier with all the other members of Team Whittaker, even the coaches who mostly speak Spanish and Portuguese anyway, because she has such a huge language barrier with everyone on her team, she is considering moving to Team Gastelum. And to me, that's a good reason to want to switch teams. You have a language barrier, and you don't feel like you're getting all of that you want out of the training that you're being given. And I absolutely agree with Leia's reasoning for wanting to leave Team Whittaker. I mean, kudos. I've got no complaints about it. This is the way that wanting to leave a team should be done, not like Lauren Murphy a couple of seasons ago, where she was just there and was just being annoying. I really didn't think I'd ever go back to bringing her up, because as you remember during my review of that entire season, I hated Lauren Murphy because she was a terrible human being. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to take a drink of water really quickly. So yeah, we see Leia talking with members of Team Gastelum, specifically Maurice Green, Macy, and Penny, I think is who she talks to. And she tells them that she does want to be in Team Gastelum, and Maurice Green is the most understanding bloke there. So he's like, yeah, absolutely. It's not up to... it's completely up to you. It's not up to us. And I absolutely agree. I feel like if Leia wants to leave Team Gastelum, if she wants to leave Team Whittaker and join Team Gastelum, I've got no problem with that. It's definitely the better looking thing for her, because Team Gastelum does have a bit heavier training and stuff. And that was kind of all the house stuff. The only other thing that was a house thing was when Team Gastelum were having breakfast when it was Team Whittaker's time to go training, and Julija had to go training, and she was leaving. And she passed by Marciea, and they had a brief back and forth. And it just resulted in Marciea, she's basically a nice person who doesn't really try to get a rise out of people, because she knows that at the end of the day, it's just a fight. They can still be friends afterwards, but it is a business at the end of the day, and the business does require punching your friends in the face. So, yeah, and she was basically saying that in the backstage black room in the background thing, and she tried bringing it up with Julija, and Julija, not being a natural English speaker, did need a couple of things repeated to her, and she was just eventually like, okay, before leaving. So, yeah, that was weird. Probably wasn't even worth bringing up, but it did anyway. And the last house-based thing I can think of was when Robert Whittaker came over, as well as the rest of his coaches, and they took the fighters out to Lake Spring Mountain, which sounds like a made-up place where they just took 3 locations and put them together, but no, it's actually a beautiful-looking place, and they all got on paddle boards. It was like these weird surfboards, and they had oars. I was going to say orcs. God, it's been months since I played Shadow of War. I shouldn't have orcs on the mind anymore. That was a good rhyme, though. But yeah, it was kind of weird to have that little bit thrown in there, but as we established earlier with the training, Team Whittaker is the team that likes to have a bit more fun. And this segment actually came before Leia was talking more about how Team Whittaker isn't taking its training seriously, so I probably should have brought that bit up earlier, but still, anyway. That part was fun. Apparently there was supposed to be a winner of it, because it was whoever got all the way around the lake first, and there wasn't really a clear winner. I think the closest I can think of was maybe Juan from Team Whittaker. I think he won it. I don't know. And there was one more training segment thing, and this is when Leia's in the black room. Let's just call it the black room. I think I've called it that before anyway. She's talking about the language barrier, because she was training with Larissa on Team Whittaker, and Larissa speaks German. And the assistant coach there was speaking German to pertain to Larissa. Robert Whittaker was also there. He wasn't giving advice, which is weird because Robert Whittaker speaks English, and if he spoke, Leia would be able to understand them. So it's weird. It's weird, and it once again furthers the reasoning of Leia wanting to leave, and once again furthers my agreement of that. I'm pretty sure if I were in that situation, if I were training with someone who spoke a different language than I did, and the coaches were helping the other person instead of me, I would. It might seem a little bit selfish, but I would also want to leave, because that's not a situation I'd want to be in, because it's way too weird and awkward. Yeah, that's about all I can talk about, and then we have the fight itself, and Team Whittaker picks up its first win of the season. They snapped the cold spell at 4 fights, and I still find it weird that even though they lost 3 in a row, they still got to pick this fight in particular. That's still weird to me. Anyway, it was probably my favorite fight of the season so far. So basically, what happened is they met in the middle. Julija threw a lazy jab and went for a takedown. Marciea withstood it, sprawled, reversed it, and got on top of Julija. And landed a ton of punches, like hammer fists, over and over and over again. She got into different positions to land those hammer fists. And she was just doing a damn good job. It was like 2 minutes worth of straight hammer fist down to the face. It busted up Julie's lip, and I think it broke her nose. There was blood like flying around her, like this region in particular. There was just blood, and when there's blood, it's painful. Quotes. There we go. And while it was 2 minutes of that, Julia did not give up. She defended herself well, managed to get back up, and Marciea didn't even look that tired. Like, she just spent 2 minutes on top of Julia and just punching her face really, really fucking hard. And she still looked really fresh when she stood up, and Julia did not, mostly because her face looked a bit more busted up. But they traded a bit more on the feet, and then Julia went for another takedown. She got a double leg this time, and managed to turn the corner and get it. And that's when it got interesting. Julia managed to maintain the position. Like, there were several times as well where Julia went for a chance armbar, and Marseille used the training that we saw earlier where she was learning to defend them. She used that to get out of them. I really, really like that when we see the training they learn actually being applied. That's always been one of my favourite things in The Ultimate Fighter, and we haven't really seen it in a while, in my opinion, so it was really, really cool to see that. Especially when it's not something they make a major point of. It's like, okay, yeah, they did make it fairly obvious. They did make it fairly obvious that Marseille did have to avoid the armbar, and they did over 300 training drills. But we don't see all 300. We see like maybe 5. I think if they did put together all 300, that'd be quite boring and would make for just one weird episode. Speaking of which, I should probably get back to the review. But yeah, it was really, really nice that they brought that up. And then it took a few tries, but eventually Julia managed to get on top, get the side control, grab the arm, give it a good yank. She landed some good shots to the body as well before going for the armbar to sort of weaken Marseille a bit. Got the right arm, got the armbar, won by tap out. First win to Team Whittaker, and it's the 4th fight into the season. And we, really, really good for the blue team to get their first win. And then they announced the next fight, which is Josh Parisian from Team Gastelum against Michel Batista from Team Whittaker. To me, one of the more interesting things was if Marseille won, that would sort of like echo a thing that happened 5 years ago. Because in season 17, all that time ago, Kelvin Gastelum was the last overall pick, and he won that entire season. In this season, his last male pick won the fight against Anderson Silva, but his last female pick did not win, so kind of a bit give and take there, and I quite like that. There was a little bit of a story going on with that, and yeah, that was just really, really cool. And the only other little thing I can think of to bring up was that before the fight, Marseille was looking at a picture of herself and a girlfriend and was crying a bit. But I don't think she was super emotional. Like, she held herself really well in the fight, even after she lost. And it's probably my favourite fight of the season. I know I've said that before, but it was really, really good. I don't get any complaints. That'll about do it for this episode. I'll hopefully see you all soon for the next UFC review or the next Water Concepts, because I'm actually putting the work in on it now. I have to put more in, but I'm getting more used to it as I keep writing for it, so looking forward to putting that out. And yeah, I'll see you all for the next video, whatever that'll be. So, got nothing else to say. Thank you for listening. You're awesome. Bye bye.